All right, let's talk about a country that completely proves that size is not everything when it comes to global power. We're diving into a nation that has pretty much mastered the art of being essential, and its story is, frankly, one of the most fascinating out there in modern geopolitics.
Just imagine this for a second. What if you took a piece of land, a little bit smaller than the state of New Jersey, and that tiny spot held one of the biggest keys to global trade and military strategy? Sounds kind of like a riddle, doesn't it? A tiny country playing host to the world's giants.
Well, that place isn't some hypothetical. It's real. And that country is Djibouti. It's a small nation in the Horn of Africa with a story that punches way, way above its weight.
So what is it that makes this small country so important? Well, let's start with its most surprising role. It's basically a landlord to the world's superpowers.
Okay, just look at this guest list for a moment. You've got the United States, and right nearby, its biggest rival, China. You have its old colonial power, France, plus a whole bunch of other major players from Europe and Asia. All of them have a military base here, squeezed into this one small country. It's absolutely wild.
Which, of course, leads to the million-dollar question. Why? Why Djibouti? What is it about this particular piece of real estate that makes everyone, including bitter rivals, want a piece of it?
And the answer is something every real estate agent on the planet understands. It all comes down to three things: location, location, and location.
You see, Djibouti sits right at what's called a maritime choke point. It's at the mouth of the Red Sea, where this huge flow of global shipping has to pass through a narrow channel. Think of it like a superhighway for giant cargo ships connecting Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. If you want to keep an eye on things, from oil shipments to counter-piracy operations, you have to be here.
And its importance isn't just global, it's regional too. Get this, a staggering 95% of all trade for its massive landlocked neighbor Ethiopia flows right through Djibouti's ports. It's not just a strategic spot, it's the economic lifeline for a nation of over 120 million people.
And just as a quick, fascinating aside about its geography, this place is also a land of extremes. Djibouti is home to Lac Assal, which is the lowest point on the entire African continent. It's just a little reminder that the same geography that makes it a global hotspot also makes it a truly unique place.
But how did this country, with its outsized role and its own internal politics, even come to be? Well, to get that, we need to do a quick rewind and look at its history, a story of colonialism, conflict, and sheer political endurance.
So it started out as a French colony way back in the 1800s. It didn't get its independence until 1977, and pretty soon after, the country faced some really serious internal conflict, which led to a civil war in the 1990s. And then, since 1999, one man, President Ismail Omar Guelleh, has been leading the country, navigating all of this. And at the absolute heart of Djibouti's national story are its two main ethnic groups, the Somali, who are the majority, and the Afar. The history of political tension between these two groups has really been a defining feature of the country's journey.
So with all this global attention and all this rent money coming in from military bases, you'd probably think Djibouti is a pretty wealthy place, right? But the reality for its 1 million citizens is, well, it's a lot more complicated. It's a story of a major economic paradox.
So here's the deal. The entire economy is basically built on that one asset, its location. More than 75% of its entire GDP comes from services. And what are those services? They're the ports and the rent from all those foreign military bases. There's very little farming or industry to speak of.
And here's the other side of that coin. This is the real shocker. Even with all that foreign money flowing in, the youth unemployment rate is an absolutely staggering 76.3%. It just shows this huge disconnect between the country's geopolitical success and the actual economic reality for young people living there. So what does this all add up to? Well, Djibouti is performing one of the most delicate, high-stakes balancing acts on the entire planet.
You know, our source for this, the World Factbook, puts it so simply and so clearly. It really all comes back to this one fact. This single sentence is the foundation of Djibouti's whole modern identity, its strategy, its everything. So, what are the big takeaways from all this? First, Djibouti is a tiny nation that carries immense geopolitical weight. Second, its whole economy is built on one single asset, its location. Third, it's this incredibly unique place that hosts rival world powers, literally side by side. And finally, it faces this huge internal challenge to make sure its strategic success actually turns into a better life for its own people.
And that leaves us with this final, really fascinating question to think about. For Djibouti, the future is this constant tightrope walk. They've been brilliant at turning their location into their greatest strength. But the challenge never goes away. How do you host the world's giants on your land and still be the one in charge of your own home?